All right, guys, at this time, I have the utmost honor to talk to somebody I've been following for a couple years, been on the show before, has an amazing story about his battle of addiction and recovery. I want you to go check that out. But I'm talking to Mr. Darren Prince here from Prince Marketing Group, who was a personal friend of the Hulkster. I'm sure you knew him as Terry. And this has got to be a hard week for you, my man. So I appreciate you giving us some time. And how are you doing this week?
Um, you're numb. It's something we didn't expect. 20 plus surgeries. There was a lot of close calls. We thought it was just going to be getting home and recovering and shut down travel and whatnot for a while. And, I was talking to one of my sober brothers this morning and I was like, unfortunately, it's part of a job as an agent. You know, Terry and I came together 25 years ago in a working capacity, and we became family along the way. And I've dealt with him, Jerry West last June. I dealt with him, Muhammad Ali in 2016, Smoking Joe in 2011. So just trying to find some time to myself to comprehend what's happening and mourn without 200 media requests coming in, which is pretty much what happened between yesterday and Friday. But like you said, you and I had a history, and I really liked your vibe, and you've been a big supporter of my journey, just like the Hulkster was.
Yes.
And it's like I'll find some time for you today.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. As a fan, this hurts on a different level. I mean, he was my real life superhero growing up.
Yep.
You have the Superman and the Batmans and stuff that people are a fan of, but Hulk was the real life hero that you could see, that you could meet, shake his hand, and the say your prayers, take your vitamins. But to me, that was Hulk Hogan. To you, he was Terry. And
To me, it was Terry, but I love how you referenced the superhero because a good buddy of mine, Dan Fleischman, we do a lot of business together. He texted me that he got to work with them a couple of times. My fiance, Nutza, who is an international recording artist. She was a finalist on Eurovision and American Idol. She's
congratulations,
28.
by the way.
What's that?
Congratulations, by the
Thank
way.
you.
I saw that.
She's a little bit younger, but she knew the name, and we went down there about a month and a half ago, hoping to say on my karaoke night, and he didn't make it in that night, but we got to hang out with his son Nick, who's like a little brother to me, and I was explaining to her because she was like, "I've never seen coverage like this before." I was like, he wasn't a wrestling superstar. He wasn't, you know, even like a global icon. It went deeper. He was literally a real life superhero. Like I've been out with him hundreds of times, and it is a different level of fandemonium where the biggest celebrities in the world even go crazy. I mean, it's especially over the years, you got to remember too, from all the fusions, he probably lost about 4 inches in height. So when we probably started working together in the early 2000s, he was probably 6'6.5", 6'7", and lost about 4 inches. So when you're walking in with that frame, and he was able to, travel commercially, and it wasn't an issue where he needed a private jet, and that blonde hair, the glasses, the
Yeah,
bandana, the do, the whole gimmick was, yeah, it was just electric anywhere we went.
man. So saying that, I remember my first time meeting. This was back in 2010. I was telling people about this yesterday. How he could have, at any point, gotten his car and took off. This was in Atlanta, Georgia, at Wild Bill's, and it was around midnight because everybody was waiting just to hopefully see the Hulkster. He waited until every last fan, Darren, got to
Yep.
meet him. And he wasn't rushing them because they all got. I've watched you since I was a kid and want to tell about every single match. He listened to every single bit, and the respect that gave me, knowing just how much he loved his fans. This wasn't something you guys was expecting though, right? Because like I was keeping up with the news. I do several podcasts with a lot of the WWE guys. There was a lot going out that it was really bad, and some people were saying, "Hey, he's going to be okay." And so there was conflicting information, but we really did think that he was going to bounce back from this because to be 71, he was in really good shape beside the surgeries, correct?
Yeah, we thought, like anything else, there was a couple close calls, especially with this one. But the idea was for him to go home and just chill and relax and try to cover the best you can, even if you
Right.
had to cut down all the promotion he was doing for the Real American Beer. And yeah, it just Ric Flair called me too on Thursday. We spoke a few times. He's a dear friend and client, and he just, he was just distraught and
Saw
said,
that.
man, because man, you walk with God every day. How does this happen? How does God, take him? And I've lived this crazy life. I go, Rick, I go, look, the body's tired, the mind is tired,
He has
it's
nothing left to accomplish.
he always put on a happy face. He
Yeah.
always, like you said, went over and above for his fans. They were everything. He would tell me, I don't care if it's a minute or 30 seconds for every one of them, brother. They've waited their whole life, and I'm going to make sure that 30 seconds is something I remember forever. I want to hear the stories about what match it was, where they were, their fathers, their uncles, their grandfathers. And I said it on I think Good Morning America a couple days ago on ABC. I was like, celebrities today should take the page out of Hulk Hogan's book.
Absolutely.
You ain't going down with a legacy like Hulk Hogan.
No.
I don't care who you are in today's world. This was a juggernaut to a different
Oh
stratosphere,
God.
a
Right
level
after
of
Ozzy.
fame when social media didn't even exist, where he retained that relevance for over 40 years as one of the most recognized human beings on earth.
Absolutely. And right after Ozzy. I mean,
Yep.
two
Yep.
juggernauts of their industries. I think they were both at the top of the mountain with what they do. But I was going back like in 2010 when I met him for the first time. His back, this is
Yes.
his top half, and his bottom half just kind of went back. The pain that guy must have been in. How many surgeries was it, Darren? It was like what,
I
12 or
mean, there was
13?
over 20 in a matter of
20.
13, 14 years at least.
It's so crazy, man. But I want to respect your time. I know you got a lot going on, and there's some important questions I want to get in here. Um, for everybody that was a fan of him as Hulk Hogan, Darren, you knew him in a different way. What kind of person was Terry?
Terry Bollea was, I mean, his heart was bigger than his biceps, that's for sure. Bigger than the 24-inch pythons. He was always there. We were always there for each other. He shared about this in an interview I did the other day that, but when I first got sober, he called me up one day after a few months and he goes, brother, he goes, I could see the light around you. I know you're walking with God. Remember on July 2nd, 2008, you asked God for the blessing. And I think he's starting to say, because you came to me correct, it's time for you to be a blessing to others. And that was something so integral in my journey because I have a, global platform now as one of the more known mental health and recovery advocates. And I just went full steam ahead with telling my story on, eventually, as you know, I published my memoir in 2018, Aiming High. I started my own foundation, my 501c3, the Aiming High Foundation in 2020. And we scholarship a couple dozen people a year. There was nothing that made him happier, man. I would just call him at the God shot. I would just tell him about a story that happened. There was somebody I met in an Uber last September that was struggling. I scholarshiped him 2 days later. Guy's got his family back now. I mean, he just loved this. He would, brother, he could be like, brother, it's exactly the shot in the arm that I needed today. He goes, oh man, he goes, so just to have that. I mean, if we had a 20-minute call on average, because we never really had quick phone calls, 19 minutes was about life. 19 minutes was about God. 19 minutes was about me instilling into him and pouring into him and him pouring into me. And, when you were his friend, money and all that other stuff went secondary. We would say it all the time. Every call would end with, and I love you. And we would always just be like, man, the money's fun and nice in the business, but we generally meant it. When we're like,
Right.
if we never worked
Absolutely.
together again, as long as we got our holidays, we get to spend time with each other, 3, 4 times a year. That meant everything to us.
I actually had that wrote down, Darren. I had my questions I wanted to ask you because one thing I noticed about Hulk, if he was your friend, you had a true friend. And
Yep.
he seemed like the most loyal guy on earth. And then if you do him wrong, that's on you.
That's it.
But he would mention you in interviews all the time. You were his agent for what, 25 years?
Almost 25 years. People are sending me clips I didn't even realize existed. He got stopped by TMZ when he landed in JFK maybe 6, 7 years ago. We had a cancer charity event. He dropped my name. I wasn't even with him on Joe Rogan. He mentioned me. Like, he understood it, and
I
that
remember when
was
you
never
did that.
anything that we had to discuss. That was just something that came very natural to him. He was, Magic Johnson's been a client for 31 years, but you know, Terry doesn't get enough credit, man. He was a very, very savvy
Oh, yeah.
entrepreneur. He really understood marketing and branding and promotion to the highest level. Never jumped into anything. We would laugh because I would have to call him 3, 4 times sometimes to get a yes. And I spoke to his longtime attorney, Joseph Cesani, yesterday for an hour, and we finally found some time on the phone to have some humor about how he was, and he never jumped into anything. He always wanted to kind of understand the trends and about the company, and so he taught me just as much as I could ever teach him. Especially on that business front and marketing, because when we've heard Hulkamania is going to live forever,
Right.
Hulkamania is going to live
Oh,
forever. I
absolutely.
mean, owns his own trademarks, his own intellectual property. That's not normal. That's not the norm for a WWE superstar or any superstar athlete at that.
And didn't he have to buy the rights from Marvel because of the
Exactly.
Incredible Hulk? I'll get into
Exactly.
that later, guys. I think that's incredible. What he's saying, absolutely true. But just, talking about how loyal of a guy he was. And he always kind of rose above it. It's been like really popular over the last 15 years. People have tried to diminish his
Yep.
legacy. When I was a kid, there was nothing bigger than Hulk Hogan. And
Yep.
anybody that would dispute that knows they're lying through their teeth. What do you think, though, Darren, knowing him like you do, at the end of the day, Hulkamania is going to live forever. But Terry, what do you think Terry would want his fans to remember him for?
That, like I said, he was a child of God. He put God first and faith. Um, that he was a human being that made some mistakes. Um, he was always there for his friends and family. And he was always there for his fans and strangers, which is the side that most people didn't see.
It would seem just from the outside looking in, maybe you could tell me, I'm sure you've went through this yourself. When you are a person like Hulk, it'd be hard to know who your friends are because there's so many people that want something from you. And it
Yep.
seems like that was something that Terry encountered a lot. And that has to, I mean, even me, I'm an ant compared to a Hulk Hogan. But knowing I have a platform, there's people that just kind of attach to you thinking, oh, they can do something for me. Was
Yep.
that a big deal to Terry? The people that would come around just to try to get something out of him?
Yeah, he would call people like that. He goes, "Oh boy, brother, they're making me a mark." That was like a line he would come up with, always that wrestling lingo. And obviously the bad PR situation that happened, that was, a trusted friend for many years. And
Oh, dude.
I was fortunate to be in Miami when that happened, and I called him up, and because obviously as his agent, we lost a couple opportunities, a couple commercials that were out there, and that was secondary because now my friend was hurting, and somebody did something to my friend to kind of implement he was this person that he really wasn't. Because any of us, if we put a tape recorder down and had a conversation that went public, every single one of us be exposed to something, some level of thinking, some
Absolutely.
twisted way of humor that would misrepresent everything that society's about. And I finally got him by like 1 o'clock that day. I'll never forget it. And I was supposed to fly back to New Jersey. I was living at the time before I moved to California. I grew up in Jersey, and I go, what's happening, man? He goes, another day in paradise, brother. He goes, you obviously know what's happening. I'm like, look, I don't want to hear it. I'm getting on a plane. I'm coming to Tampa. I will sleep on your front lawn because you need a big hug and we need a little powwow. And he's like, all right, brother. He goes, look, I'm not going to argue with you, but make it like after 7 o'clock tonight. And I remember when I got to his house that day on El Dorado, he kind of sat in his office area and he said to me that, I got a feeling that this is happening for me and not to me. And I go, well, just keep that mindset. And that was his mission. He said, I don't care if I lose every dime, if I can do something with these privacy laws to help other people. He goes,
And you do
brother,
it.
that's a lot bigger than anything Hulk Hogan did in the ring.
Oh, absolutely, man. And it was so much needed. They used this moment that should have never happened. It was in the privacy of a home. And if
Yep.
they would have got away with that, guys, oh my God. I mean,
Yep.
the consequences would be astronomical. How big of a toll did that take on Holt during that time?
It did. I mean, obviously, I think the first, few days or a week, whatever, it's a little bit of, you kind of have to catch your breath. And, not knowing the celebrity news cycle, though, we knew that like it was just a matter of time. Another couple days, another celebrity takes front and center of doing something that, people shake their heads about. But, again, I think just diving into his faith and staying in a place of, you know what, this isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. He found out who his real friends were.
Yep. And you do. That's when you find out who your real friends are. The fact, just hearing that he had that friend in you to say, I'm coming down there, even in the middle of the storm, man. How different was it representing Hulk? I mean, your roster right before you came on, because it's been a while since I've went to your website, just like refreshing on who all you represent. It's pretty impressive, guys. Go check on it. But how different was representing Terry versus the rest of the people on your roster?
Well, I mean, I knew he was a huge name when we first started working with him. At that time we had Magic is still with us, Larry Bird is still, was working with Rodman for a while, Chevy Chase, Smoking Joe Frazier was alive, Muhammad Ali. So what I didn't realize was he was such a cultural juggernaut,
Oh, yeah.
um, that transformed into every genre of marketability. There was just no sort of brand, company, uh, TV network, TV project, every single company that we ever spoke to about him, which was like, oh my gosh, we'd love to work with him. I didn't understand how he crossed over so much at that point in my life because I was young, I was 30 years old, and I knew how huge he was in my childhood. But we just, realized like, wow, this is super exciting for us, and it's super exciting for him because we already had the foundation of having, some of the most iconic legends, and at that point, it allowed us to just kind of work our database and say, hey, we just signed Hulk Hogan as a client, and
Awesome.
um, he was always that guy that was just like Magic. And Irvin, I call him by his real name, is the same way. Like, all you have to do your job, book it, get the contracts right. And he was an over deliver every single time. And Magic's always been that like, Terry would show up. And if he needed to stay an extra 30, 45 minutes, do X, Y, and Z more, wasn't even about the money. He understood that over delivering is so important in the business world because that's what gives you the retention and the repeat business factor and word of mouth. And
Absolutely.
that's a rarity. Not a lot of clients are like that. Not
Okay.
a lot of celebrities are like that.
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously they hear your agent, but like, how close were the two of you, Darren? I'm gonna flash some of these pictures while you're talking too, man.
Yeah, I mean, when my book came out, he gave me an incredible testimony. I did a big book release event at Komodo, Dave Grutman's place, the hospitality guru. And he was telling me his back was banged up because, brother, look, if I can't make it, why don't you take a short flight to Tampa? We'll go out for sushi tomorrow night. And this was a big event. I mean, Rodman, a lot of the clients were there in 2018. And he pulled a fast one on me because Dave Grutman walked in with my boy Vo and Hulk took a private plane and wanted to surprise me
That's awesome, man.
for my book release event. He didn't want to miss it.
I was trying to hurry with this because I'm gonna get you out of here. I got just a few questions left for you, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. How did the two of you meet? How did that even happen in the first place?
So there's a legendary entertainment attorney, Henry Holmes, that got me Pamela Anderson back in the mid '90s, and Henry was Hulk's like lifelong entertainment lawyer before he retired, probably 5, 6 years ago. And I met Terry several times in California at different events, and he just was not accessible to these type of opportunities. Everything was about WWF and Vince. And I somehow, some way, through another party, got him to go to a corporate eyewear expo in Las Vegas. And from there, that individual formed a friendship with Terry, connected us. I called up Henry Holmes, told him Terry did the event. He was so excited. He goes, I'm going to call him right now and tell him what an amazing guy you are. And so you talk about the power of relationships. If it wasn't for Henry Holmes reinforcing who I was and working with Magic and Smoking Joe and Ali and Pamela Anderson at that time, and him having a relationship with me, especially being Hulk's main entertainment lawyer, who knows if I'm even sitting here to this day.
That's awesome, man. What's something about Terry the fans wouldn't know?
The fans wouldn't know. That's a great question. Something about Terry that the fans wouldn't know.
I tried to work hard to ask you stuff you probably haven't been asked before. I hope
Yeah,
I'm delivering.
I got to think. But he's definitely not. He definitely wasn't money motivated. He liked the world of business, but like I said, I think the fact that he was such an intellect in the business world, that he wasn't like a lot of these other celebrities, athletes, that they just want to grab every opportunity. He was very mindful of what he created,
So, like,
and yeah, very, very smart in that way.
awesome, man. What was it like for you getting the news this past week about his passing?
It was just shocking and devastating. Like you wait because I was woke up hour earlier. I just did my morning meditation, and I was expecting to reach out for him. I have a little bit of regret that I didn't call a day or two before, but I knew he was just released from the hospital. I wanted to give him some time to chill before I even called, just as a friend. And we had a lot of close calls, man. We had TMZ call me and my boy Vo probably 3 or 4 times over the last 10 years that they heard rumors that Hulk passed away. And it's the worst call ever, that we had to both frantically call the big man to try to get him on the phone. And thank God he picked up every time. So it's kind of like, it's surreal. The emotions for me, I had a few tears last night when I was watching TV with my fiance. So I'm like looking forward to finally chilling this weekend. I'm not leaving. I'm not doing anything because I need to process the fact that this incredible human that was a superhero type global iconic figure to the rest of the world, but to me, he was family. Um, I need to process it because, life's not going to be the same. But, my program in recovery also allows me to focus on what I had, not what I lost.
That's right, man. And it's not always easy to do. Two last questions and get you out of here. What will you miss the most?
Definitely our phone calls and our sushi. I did a post this morning about going down to Clearwater Beach and always grabbing sushi or dinner, lunch or dinner. I mean, our phone calls were just magical every single
Yeah.
time. It was just both of us would get chills. And I mean, mind you, I'm not saying a single thing about business. That is so secondary. It was just a magical frequency and vibration that him and I were living in together. And we just poured into each other each and every time. It was just like to hear him on the phone, like, wow, brother. Oh, brother, text me that one. Oh my gosh, I needed that today. And then it's a rarity. You don't get that, man. I mean,
I get you.
God blessed me.
He did. He definitely did. He blessed all of us, man. What
Yeah.
a gift he was for us through all these years, these memories. Last question. I just got to get this out. It's dad talk. I feel like this is a question that I'm trying to do out of respect for Terry, and I'm not. I want to make sure I do it the right way. You said you're close with his son Nick. Obviously, you knew his whole family, and he just had grandbabies earlier this year. That was the
Yep.
first thing I thought of when I heard the news. Like, these grandbabies aren't going to get to have their grandfather growing up, because that's what my kids went through when my dad died.
I know.
But could you give us an idea, Darren, of how much, I would say Hulk Hogan, but that's his name for the fans, but how much Terry Bollea loved his children and how much he loved being a father?
I think that was one of his greatest joys. I'll tell you a quick story. He told me early on when I first met Brooke and Nick, brother, if my kids like you, we're going to be good friends and work together forever. If they don't like you, see you later. That's how important it was to him.
It tells you everything. And, hopefully those grandbabies got a ton of memories to look for. Darren, dude, it was such an utmost honor. It means the world to me that you took out some time. You need to process, get over there and do that. But I think Hulk would want me to do this one last thing too, is tell everybody where they can follow you and hear about your recovery. And for anybody that's struggling with drugs or alcohol, look, both of us on the screen, we've been there, and that's way
Yep.
behind us. I love using my story and turn that pain into purpose. And
Yep.
Darren has an amazing, amazing story. Tell people where they can follow you and get a copy of your book.
Yeah, and we our test becomes our testimony. So at Instagram, it's at agent_DP. Facebook is Darren Prince. Should come up under Los Angeles, California. Um, my foundation website, aiminghighfoundation.org. If anybody's listening that's struggling and needs treatment, you'll see we're the real deal, because all you have to do is go on there and inquire about what's going on. I personally call everybody, and we will scholarship you 100% financially to get you into the treatment, to get the gift of recovery going.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yep.
I definitely got to hook up with you more on that. But Hope, love you, man, up there in heaven. I'm sure you're doing better than we are down here right now. Any last words, Darren, to tell the fans just how much he cared for them?
I just, his fans were everything. I mean, his wife Sky said it best on her post, and she's an incredible human being. I honestly have never seen him so happy as he was the last 3 years, and my heart breaks for her too. She's a very special woman, and she said it best on the post. His fans were everything. No matter what type of pain he was in, it didn't matter. He was going to make sure that he shut up and gave them everything they ever expected or wanted.